Hi everyone, welcome to Productly C Sharp, and I'm happy to host Jérôme, the CTO of Uno platform today. So we're going to spend some time to reflect, understand, what the Uno platform can offer, and I have various questions. But let's start by introducing Jérôme. So do you want to introduce yourself?
Of course. Thank you for inviting me, Andrea, on your
Welcome.
podcast and video. My name is Jérôme Laban. I'm the CTO of the open source project Uno platform. And I've been a C# .NET user since 1999 or something, before the previous the original betas of .NET. And it's been developing, being a teacher, trainer, architect, developer, and mix of all things. Since then, I've been working in as part of the CTO of Uno platform since we open sourced the project. So that was into 2018. So it's been it's been a few years now. Time flies, and I've been working on that since then. So as my daily job, it's mostly developing, doing DevOps around Uno, release management, architecting, community management, making videos, podcasts. I have my own Twitch stream as well. So where I do live streaming and talking about what Uno does and developing features live when I can. I should have been doing that yesterday, but we released yesterday a new version of Uno platform, 5.1, that has quite a few new features and updates. So it's a lot of fun.
We're gonna go deep into that. So thank you for your introduction. I'm gonna go straight to the cheese, as I've got some, probably the number one question everyone asks you, and I've asked my community, and they're very, very interesting to understand why like .NET developers should choose the Uno platform to build their application, considering that there's a lot of confusion about all the possible frameworks available. There is, as far as I'm aware, like there's .NET MAUI, Avalonia, there is Blazor, and obviously all WPF and stuff like that. So there's a lot of confusion on how to choose which framework to use, and that was Uno platform is one of the choices out there. So if you can help, just
of course,
give a high level overview of why your Uno platform, what it is.
Of course. So just to clarify what that is for the audience that may not know what Uno platform is. Uno platform is a platform that has some components in it. One being the ability to show create applications using XAML and C# or C#, but across platforms. So we're talking about iOS, Android, Catalyst, the web, Linux. So that means that we're able to run those applications across platforms. That's the main attraction. But we're also a platform, and the platform part means that we have additional tooling around this. So we are providing a pattern that's called MVUX that allows you to do reactive and reactive programming in a more advanced way. That's not MVU, that's not MVVM, but in between, and we think faster and cleaner. We're providing tooling around Figma, which is being able to take designs in Figma and to export them into C# Markup or into XAML. We also have a host of extensions that are provided to be able to facilitate development, like making easy navigation, easy storage, easy localization, authentication, things like that. So all sorts of pieces that we're providing as part of the platform. So it's not just about the UI part. So when we're comparing pieces, let's say you're talking about, let's say, MAUI or other competitors like this, they're mostly about showing the UI. We're larger than that. That's why we're called Uno platform, not Uno framework, if you will. So that's what Uno is, at a very high level. Now, with regards to choosing, which technology to use when you're going into a newer platform, what we're doing, or actually choosing a technology, the important part about Uno platform is that we're standing on the shoulder of a giant. Basically, we're using .NET as a whole, whether it's for WebAssembly or Linux or for mobile. So we're standing on top of what .NET provides for accessing those platforms. But we're also implementing a known API, which is the WinUI API. So for the XAML parts of XAML parts and C# parts, because we're going to talk about that afterwards with a small demo. The APIs are known, and that means that we're not inventing anything. That means that if you know one portion, you're going to be, if you know some portion of XAML, particularly the one that comes from WPF, if you go to WinUI, you're not going to be lost. It's pretty much the same. And we're working, by the way, for those of you that are asking specifically about the differences between WPF. Some customers have been asking us, WPF is able to do this, and this, and WinUI doesn't. And most of the time, the pieces that are missing are related to specifics of the way XAML works. And while Microsoft is not going to be providing those as part of WinUI anytime soon, or at least for what it could, what has transpired publicly, for what I can tell, we're providing things that are advancing more into the direction of filling the gaps between what WPF and WinUI was doing. So that's where we're on. So we're sitting on top of the shoulder of giants, saying that we're not inventing. And so if you're familiar with XAML, if you're familiar with WPF or familiar with WinUI, taking the application and porting it over and adding UNO targets to your existing application and migrating to mobile or the web or to Linux is something that does make sense. So when you're comparing, for instance, to Maui, we're adding we have the support for the web as well as Linux. Both targets are not supported by Maui at this time, at least. So that's kind of features that we're talking about. Now, with regards to the other platform, I'm not going to be commenting on any of the others that exist, whether it's Flutter or other technologies. But what we're trying to do is to bring the best development environment and development platform for developers to create their own applications and use all the pieces that we're providing as part of the good experience. For instance, having a good hot reload experience. That's something that's very important. And I'm going to show you with the next demo that we're able to do this. Having, let's say, our ultimate goal is to have you start your application and then you never stop it with the debugger, and you continue iterating into your application and just modify your app as it is running. So there are pieces where Microsoft is working on, especially with 17.9 that's coming up. There are a few updates that are going to be very interesting in adding new features around hot reload. But we've been working really hard to get that to a point where it makes sense for developers to just start the app and make it run to the end. So we're adding features on top of the existing ecosystem, as well as reusing the same ecosystem. And particularly when we're saying that we're using the ecosystem, that means that, for instance, the Windows Community Toolkit is compatible with UNO, and we're not changing anything. The data grid that comes from the Windows Community Toolkit is compatible with UNO. That's the kind of things that we're doing, and the UNO platform provides on top that makes it easier and kind of leverages the existing ecosystem that is around WinUI and WinApp SDK. So that's some of the important pieces that makes for the choice for UNO platform. So there's that, and of course all the extensions that I talked about a bit earlier before. So making sure that you can have develop your app faster and get something that you can ship faster.
Fantastic. So if I understand correctly, it's like basically open source, highly extensible, support basically cross-platform, all the platforms, like Maui is not yet there in supporting Linux and so on, and so basically, and sit on the native API that's on the under the kind of the abstraction layer that you created.
Well, that's the thing. It's not an abstraction layer. That's where it gets interesting.
Let's clarify that.
So this is not an abstraction layer, and that's what makes it very different from. So there are two sides to that coin. So let's say there are some technologies that are completely using the native technologies, and basically you're bound to use what those technologies are providing. And those are the native controls that are showing up directly, and that's where you get. But you may sometimes have an abstraction on top. So React Native, for instance, can be something like this. Maui also. There are technologies that are completely on the other side, which is completely drawn using Skia. And we have some parts of the technologies like this. For instance, when you're going to Linux, going to Linux, or on some part on Windows, we're rendering to Skia completely. So that's one side of the rendering that we're doing. But when we're talking about iOS and Android, we're not abstracting away the UI. So what happens is that we're inheriting from the visual tree that comes from iOS and Android, and we're defining controls on top of it. So, for instance, when we're drawing a button, we're using the native primitives that are coming from Android to draw something on the screen, but we're allowing the developers to manipulate the visual tree that comes from Android directly. There's no abstraction, if you will. So you can poke at the underlying system very easily. And what that does for us is that if you're familiar with when you wire WPF, when you create a grid and you put something in it, it can be an Uno control, but it can also be an ad control that comes from your favorite ad provider, for instance, or any kind of native control that you're developing. There's no abstraction that needs to be there. You just create a content control, put the native control in it, and it will work as is. So that's where there's no abstraction, in a sense that we're not inventing something on top of it. There's no back and forth between the two. Have an a virtual tree and an actual tree. We have the actual tree. It's
okay.
There's no
Thank
difference.
You for clarifying that, because
that's on mobile. That's on mobile specifically. On Skia targets, it's different because we're rendering everything. But that's where there's a bit of misunderstanding sometimes with regards to how we're showing things.
Yeah, awesome. And then you mentioned the auto reload, and I've been working with WPF without the auto reload, and I know the pain. So definitely cool. All right. So, and as you said, there is you have a demo you want to show.
Yeah, sure. I can do that.
The code also.
This is an Uno app, so I hope it's not too small. That should be okay. But this is my applications as it is. So what I'm going to show you is an application that is a small sample that we're presenting as part of a how do we call this, a guide or a walkthrough kind of tutorial. I was searching for the word. The tutorial that we're providing as part of Uno platform, and basically you can go there and just do it yourself as I'm going to be doing this. But when you're creating an Uno platform using our new wizard, so you basically go to Uno platform, create an app. And I wanted to actually show you this because it's something that we released today very quickly. So this is our startup platform, startup new template. So basically you have a way to select your app and create, customize, choose the platforms that you want to have, choose the presentation layer that you want to have, the markup if you want to do XAML, C# theming and things like that. So that's all the kind of things that you can choose. With features, Maui embedding is one of the features that a lot of people have been talking about, which is having the ability for an Uno app on the mobile to use Maui controls and embed them. So it kind of makes the application very interesting. We even have WASM multi-threading, something that that Blazor still doesn't have. So and we do. So that's pretty nice to have. So that's the wizard. So when you create, then you're going to get your new application. And I wanted to show you very quickly something that we released just today. This is the new experience that we have, which is pretty much the same wizard, but on the web.
Yep. Okay.
So when you basically create your application, it's the same experience, the same application. This is an Uno app, by the way. So we're creating this wizard. So what you see behind is a WinUI app. This is the WebAssembly version of that app. And when you click a create button, you're going to get a .NET New command that will allow you to create your app. So that's the kind of things that we're providing as part of enhancing their experience. And that particular wizard, we created this for VS Code and Rider users. So I know there's a lot of Rider users.
Yeah.
So that's where we're going to, because Rider doesn't have a file new project experience that's extensive enough for us to be showing what we can provide as part of Uno. So that's where we're going with all this. So that's the template wizard. So I created that application already, and actually I think I closed the I closed the thing before I created it. So an Uno app is basically one main library which has all the code that you need, and then you have platform heads. So one for Windows, one for WebAssembly, one for SkiaWPF. So if you want to run on Windows 7, you can go with that one. There's a GTK that runs on Windows, Mac, and Linux. And then all the mobile heads with iOS, Android, Catalyst that run on the target. And what I'm going to do here is just show you how to do C# markup, the C# markup UI using to create a simple calculator with hot reload. So the best thing here is to just start the app with F5, and we're going to put the app to the side and just iterate on that application. And I'm going to explain to you, all the pieces that you can see on the screen, so that it makes more sense. So let's put this on the side, so I can put that application here. So what you can see here is a basic sample main page, which allows you to basically create basic content on the screen. So putting a text, just a text block here. So we can set the background of the page. We can set its content, for which we set a stack panel. So it's a control that allows you to stack things inside. And then we can set the vertical alignment so that it centers on the screen. And then we can create the text block with its new text. The interesting thing here for the background, for instance, is that here we have as part of C# markup, and if you're familiar with styling and theming that comes from XAML, is that you don't necessarily get all the brushes and things that can be set to background. And here what we've done is that we're materializing the themes and brushes as actual C# properties. So you can see as C# properties all the styles that you can use. So that's what we're setting here. So you want to set the default that works. So then next, I told you that we can have hot reload. So what we're doing here is that if I do, let's say, hello.net 2 and I press save, immediately I have my updated content that shows up. And I could probably do something like this, for instance. If I add a second text blocks and I add it, then immediately when I save the file, the content will be automatically updated. And if you're wondering how that works in terms of if you're interacting as a developer, one thing that is a little bit hidden in Visual Studio is the fact that you can click on the little arrow next to the flame here for the hot reload, and click the hot reload on file save. Mm-hmm. So that's what you get when you want to do hot reload.
This looks very familiar, by the way. Having used WPF, it's super familiar, right? The name of the methods, it's match the name of the.
Yeah, the names are the same. There are a few properties that are on top of it that makes the things like, for instance, you can have there's a property that's called spacing. That's always interesting. So you can set the spacing between the elements. So if you want to have them separated properly in between, so that's the kind of thing that you can do. So the interesting thing here is that if you're doing small changes to your UI because you want to validate what happens, then having to rebuild everything every time is very difficult. And particularly if you're deep into the app and that you've made a change to the third page of your app and you want to navigate again to that third page of the app, that's where it gets interesting. So that's the kind of things that you were doing, and all of this is code generated for us. I mean, we're following all the APIs that are added to WinUI, and also your controls, by the way. If you're creating a library, there's a set of source generators that we're providing as part of a C# markup that will allow for your controls that have been defined and maybe completely XAML to be exposed as C# markup. So that's where it gets interesting for third parties.
Pretty cool. Yep.
So what I'm going to do now is we're going to expand our calculator. So what I can do here is just uncomment a bigger block. So for instance, here we can see that we can have resource geometry. So here, for instance, if I go to the definition, you can see that I've created a static resource that is a geometry for which you can have the path of the geometry. Same thing, we're going to set the background, then we can set the data context. So that's where data binding comes in. I'm setting a temporary data context. I'm going to show you why afterwards. And for which the data context is typed already. So that means that I can do vm dot something and see what's inside my view model so that I can data mine it. So, but we're going to get back to that. And then we can set grids. We can set raw definitions, max width for the row for the grid. So you can set vertical alignment and things like that. Now I'm going to be defining a few blocks here so that we have the basic pieces of our calculator. So if I save, you're going to see that the content is going to be updating immediately. And then you can see that I have my three sections here for the header, output, and keypad. So now we're going to be adding the keypad. The keypad is just a set of functions that will create controls. And when we're doing when you're doing C#, when you're doing XAML, you're accustomed to be creating data templates. And pretty much what the data template is just a function that you're calling multiple times. That's pretty much what that is. So what we're doing here is just say, well, for each button of our calculator, we're going to be calling a function that's called Keypad button. And we're going to create that button multiple times by calling that function multiple times, pretty much the same way we would if we were doing data templates. So I'm going to be doing the same thing for a primary button. So primary button is the operators, and a secondary button that is the pieces for let's say clear and equal, things like that are not particularly important for the calculator. Then I'm going to define the keypad itself. So this is a longer method, of course, because it's a statically defined UI. It's pretty easy to just replicate and call each function just to create buttons. So I'm creating the clear button, the plus minus percentage, and others using the appropriate functions that I'm calling. I can also define using column definitions like this. So this is the what we're calling the succinct syntax, for which you can basically define columns automatically. And let me comment that part at the top here because it's duplicate functions. And once I'm done with this, I think header is good. So, yeah, okay. So I've defined all of those buttons, and then I need to specify the header at the top and the output of the calculator. So pretty much the same thing is all that you get here. Now, what I want to put your attention to is two things. The first one is the command. So we have a notion of the data context that's provided here, and it's a type data context. And that type data context has a way to provide its actual properties that you can see directly from Visual Studio. So using IntelliSense. So we have a calculator property, we have the input command, we have the isDark property. So those are properties that are defined on my view model. It's pretty much the same thing with regards to showing, for instance, not the header, because that one is not necessarily bound, but for instance, the text for the equation and the output. So I can just data bind the calculator and the output, and the result will be updating itself properly as a result. So that's the cool part about data binding, is that you just define a lambda and put your binding expression inside, and will just automatically and magically update itself when you're running the whole thing. So when I save the app, I have, well, something that's a bit too small. Let me just scale it a little bit up, give it a little bit more room. So I have my application that's running here. So when I click the buttons, for now, it doesn't do anything because I have my temporary data context that's defined here. So that's it. So don't mind the fact that it's a bit slow here. I'm running on a remote machine that's doesn't that has that's through remote desktop, so it lags a little bit. So that's where we are right now.
I think what I particularly like is I remember having played with the data template and stuff like that in WPF. It's not that intuitive at the beginning when you start using them. Or here it's just as simple as using functional composition in C#,
exactly.
And the same for the data binding. So there is no like complex syntax and binding and curly brackets that you need to use in the right way to make sure that,
Correct.
it compiles. It's just C#, so it seems fairly intuitive. I mean, as a C# developer, like
yes, exactly. And that's the thing about C# markup is that people have been asking, saying, well, XAML is nice, but it's a second language. So I don't want to have to learn two languages. So it's best if I can learn one single language and just reuse that. So it comes with responsibilities, if you will. It's best if you don't put your business logic directly in the code that you're defining the UI
you
with.
still want to keep the separation from the UI.
Exactly.
And
that's why we're providing view models and things like that. So that's where actually we're going to now. So you can see here that I had my temporary data context. So what I'm going to do is just go to my what is called main model. And what you can see here is that I have my main model. It's actually commented out. So if you were developing the application and just type it in while you're going through, that's what the hot reload would do. So if I uncomment that view model, nothing happens, which is good, but it got compiled and nothing happened, which is very nice. So there are multiple things here to note. Using Uno platform and what is called MVUX, you can see that I'm creating a main model, and that main model, it doesn't inherit from anything. It doesn't have identifier property change, doesn't have properties, the standard properties and things like that. Instead, we're using what we're calling state properties and feeds. Not going to the details, but basically what we're doing is that we're allowing you to define state like this and have observable state that will be automatically bound to the UI. Same thing with commands. So you can define an input command, and that input command will be automatically bound to the UI when you're defining it. And to do this, obviously, because if you look at XAML, if you're looking at even an C# markup, this is MVVM. There's data binding and things like that. So how do we reconcile the two so that this thing that I have that is a nice state that definitely is not bindable by itself can be bound to a checkbox, for instance? That's where we're having the magic of source generators. And by default, what we're doing is that when you're defining a model like this that has state like this, we're defining something that is called a bindable of the class. So if I replace the temp data context here by bindable main model, so automatically, so we're detecting that something is called model, and we're generating a bindable version of it. And if I replace all of this with the newer content, then if I look again at the locations where I had, for instance, the equation, you can see that I still have a string. Here I have a bindable calculator. So this is a bindable version of my calculator. And this is going to be binding directly to the UI. So if I go, let's say, for instance, to I had the, let's say, take a look at the dark. Yeah, is dark. You can see here that in my view model, I have the bindable main model, and there's a property that we're generating as part of the tooling in behind that is bindable, that you can use directly in the UI, and it's going to do it all by itself. And if I go to the generated code, there's a lot of generated code, but there are pieces that are automatically doing identifier property change with code that you don't have to care about, but it's done all automatically. So no more notify property change, no more background thread going to the forward to the dispatcher and making sure that everything's going back and forth properly, things like that. Forgetting to call the right property change to make sure that the UI updates properly and things like that. So you don't need to care about all this. And because it's a record, it's immutable. So that means that all the multi-threading things that are happening can just happen very easily. So if I save, if I did I save? I don't remember if I saved. I saved already. So I saved the file. Yeah. So I saved that file, and now that means that my calculator is operating immediately. So you can see that I have not stopped the app. It's still there. It's still hot reloading. So my new view model is bound to the UI, and I can do operations directly here, and the UI updates properly.
Okay, that's very interesting. So I have a few questions. So I remember identify property change always been one of the most painful things working WPF, and pretty much every app I've been in to try to kind of reduce the overhead of having to implement that in some shape or form. So
Yes.
that's very interesting. So how do I connect the main model to the main page? Is that like convention? Is it by convention? I didn't see them how it's connected with the main model.
So main model to bindable main model. So basically just a new. You're creating a new, you knew the bindable main model, which is a class that we're generating as part of the Uno to Uno platform tooling.
And, I
see.
You
just bind this.
Yeah, you just prefix bindable with the name
Correct.
of the model you created, and then you
exactly.
Can. Fantastic, it's cool. And the D is also obviously support two-way bindings as
of course.
well.
Of course, right? It does. Now, let me actually show you that specifically. So the two-way binding, this is at the top here, is something that will change the theming of the app. The theme of the app. So what I can do is just comment this part, and let me show you another one. So in here, I'm just changing the ease dark property so that it uses the theme service. So it's a new a feature that we're providing as part of Uno platform. And what will happen is that when the is dark property changes, whether it's set from the view model or it's set from the UI, then we're going to be calling set theme async to change the theme of the app. So let me change quickly the theme here. So we have a small get theme service here. So when I save the app again and the changes are applied, you can see that my application is now updating properly as a result. So it's calling the method every time that I change the slide. So this is a two-way binding. Actually, if you take a look at the way the binding is defined, let me just find it out. So in the header, you can see here that we have is checked.
All right, yeah.
We create a binding here, and to be able, so we could do something like this. We could just say is dark. If we define it like this is valid. The problem is that it would be a one-way binding. Okay, so if you want to make an extended binding, then we use a builder that's a property builder. We say that it's a binding to is dark, and we specify its mode, which is two-way. Okay, so it allows for the binding to update properly when we're clicking the button. And the cool thing about hot reload is that if I put a breakpoint here and I click the button, it hits. That's the cool thing, because that code was not there when I started the app, and that makes development so much easier because you can manipulate. You can manipulate your app directly without having to deal with all those difficult things around restarting your app and going to the right places. This is evolving quite a bit. And I know some of the developers they're going to be listening are going to say, well, I tried hot reload, and then there's some pieces that are not working because you hit what are called root edits in hot reload. And this is evolving very quickly in 17.9. So the version of Visual Studio that's coming up very soon. The Roslyn team has been working on something very cool that allows for lambdas to be hot reloadable in a very nice way. So that was the main concern about hot reload, and this is gonna make everything so much easier. So it's if you have complaints, hang on, it's gonna come and be a lot better. So that's where we are with all this. And same thing for commands. For instance, if I put a breakpoint here, when I click the 7 button, you can see that my key here that passed as a parameter is automatically 7, and then it calls the calculator, does an update, and what will happen is that and we can go a little bit into the details for that one. When I was saying before, it's immutable and reactive. When we're talking about the calculator model, which is the brains of the calculator sample that you can see here, this is a record as well. A new version of the calculator is recreated every time there's an operation that's happening onto it. And what the input method is doing is basically returning a version of itself modified with the operation that's requested by the user. And what that means in terms of binding is that we have a state here.
Yeah.
And that state is updated with the current version, using the current version of the calculator, and modified and created a new version of itself using the operation that's performed onto it. And then we set that value back to the state, and then the bindings updating here are updating here, so that we can have the expression that's showing up properly, as well as the output that's showing up properly.
Right.
So yeah, that's pretty much what C# markup is, and it's providing a lot of things. So for instance, we have all through and based APIs, you can discover all those things easily. You have attached properties that are supported properly. For instance, grid row, and this is also extendable. So if you're creating your own, you're going to be able to see those extensions the same way. There's all sort of data binding, short syntax, typed converters, advanced bindings, and things like that. That make all bindings a lot easier to manage. You can bind to resources, of course, and use resources like this. Those are generated as well, but it's something that you can use. And you can use basically you can extend it. If you want to make your own extension that does some fancy thing, it's C#, so you can do whatever you need to do with C# and extend. If you want to wrap all of this into an extension, do it.
Composition, and you can
exactly
make it yours. Fantastic. So all of that, as you said, don't want to jump ahead, but this one I can deploy to a mobile
of course,
mobile phone.
Yes. Absolutely. And just to show you, so I can give you, for instance, another one. The mobile is one, but we can do WebAssembly, for instance. If I go and build the WebAssembly head for that project, you're going to see that it's building and creating a WebAssembly project, pretty much in the same way what Blazor does. But and when you start your application, there you go. It will start up and show the UI of the calculator in the same way. And this is C# markup doing the same thing, but running in the browser. And it's .NET in all its glory.
Yeah, it's all C#. We all love C#. So
exactly, all C#.
Brilliant. Oh, thank you. That's fantastic. Yeah.
And some people are asking us, well, what kind of tools do you have applications that are publicly deployed and that are using UNO platform?
Yeah, common question. Yep.
This one is. If you've been using NuGet.info is one of those applications that where we've published that's used by a lot of people.
Yes, I've seen that. You're right.
And if you want to diagnose your packages, or even open yours if you want to, you can open your own package here and analyze its content, and you can see, for instance, what's inside, what the DLLs are doing here. You can view the content of the XML pages. You can view the PDBs. You can view the metadata references. One of the things that we're talking about is the data grid. The data grid is one good example. This is a live data grid that comes from the Windows Community Toolkit, and it's used inside of an UNO app. And pretty much allows you to see all the content that's available there. And we're benefiting from all those things here. If you let's say do something like this, we have copy paste. If you copy the content of that line, this is included by default because the original control was doing this. So we're benefiting from everything that was developed by the original developers.
Fantastic.
So that's one of the applications that have been that is used by a lot of developers. That is public. There are, of course, a lot of other customers they're building their own applications, whether it's on mobile or using the web. Very large customers with thousands of daily users. So if you want to try one, NuGet.info is definitely one to use. And as a .NET developer, it's rare that you don't have to poke into NuGet packages to understand how they're built.
Much impossible, is it? Fabulous. So if I start using the UNO platform, and I want to learn more, or if I run into a problem, what kind of the level of support in troubleshooting things and learning and so on?
Sure. So the support is pretty much in multiple ways. We have free and paid support, so that's where it gets interesting. So free support is basically Discord, GitHub discussions, and any social like Mastodon and Xator.
Okay.
is it? and X or a few others. And we have our own Discord, of course. So you can go to our Discord and join us to join the community and ask questions. But we also have we need to be sustainable if we want the product to stay there for the years to come, and that's how we've been sustaining ourselves, is basically by offering paid support, so that the issues that are opened by some of our customers are bumped up in a priority, and also can influence the direction of the Uno platform, and so that you can definitely call us to discover what we're offering here. But definitely the going to our docs and get started to create your first project, install the tooling using Uno checks to make sure that everything's set up properly, and then come over to our Discord or to our GitHub to ask questions, is probably the best way to do it.
Fantastic. No, thank you, Jérôme. It's beautiful. Do you have anything else you want to add on?
So yeah, I mean, the with regards to all the additional tooling, like Figma has been one of the biggest pieces that, one of the big things that people have been asking, being able to integrate with their designers, and
lots of product designers use that tool.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly, and being able to take a design that comes from Figma and integrate it using hot reload directly into your app without having to change anything is kind of awesome, because we've all done, I have my super design in Figma, and then I want to put that into my app, and then I need to figure out all the margin and paddings and colors and typos and everything like that. That's super difficult to do. And we're providing that tool so that it shows up directly into your application very, very easily. And with bindings, with all the fluent, adaptive design that we're providing. So that's the kind of cool things, and all of this is documented is available in our documentation, so you can go and take a look at that to get you started. So that's one of the hot pieces of tech as well that we're providing.
I still remember pretty well, like early days when Microsoft announced WPF and also Blender. That was like the dream of having designer to work more closely with developers and and also creating the UI. So that this is kind of an evolution of that with the tools that are popular now somewhat.
It is definitely
improving the collaboration between designer and developers. So that's fantastic. Awesome. I think that's everything. So thank you so much, Jérôme, for your time. I really appreciate you sharing with us all the things about Uno platform. And so the website is there, platform.uno, if you want to play around with it. And if you're C# developers, I bet you're going to use C# most likely as your choice. But you can also use Scammer, right? If you really want to.
Yeah, both C# and XAML. Both are available. And if you very quickly, if you want to try the XAML directly on the web, you can do that with the playground. This is something that we've been showing to be able to test really quickly without having to install anything. And we've added recently, just today, we've released the time picker, which is a new control that allows to select time. So that's the kind of thing that we're showing our users directly. So you can do C# and XAML independently or in conjunction, if you will. If you're in the same application, both works really well.
Beautiful. All right, fantastic. Thank you, and I'll see you later.
Thank you for inviting me. Bye.
The Productive C# membership is the only membership on the planet exclusively focused on helping C# software engineers at any stage in their career to master the C# programming language and grow in their career from a junior to a mid to a senior to a staff level position and even an engineering management position. You can progress your career faster with Productive C#. Mastering C# is not an easy job, as the language evolved significantly over the last 20 years since it was created, and now more than 6 million developers worldwide are using the language. It's one of the top 5 languages in the world, and it's the fastest growing languages. Productive C# contains more than 200 practical hands-on videos on C#. I search everything about each feature of the language. I combine all my experience into short, practical videos, maximum 5 to 10 minutes long, that really helps you to get to the point and learn each feature in depth. You can access all the source code on a private GitHub repositories only available to members. I help you stay on top of all the C# and .NET software developer news every month by sending you a curated newsletter with all the most important articles and news on the industry, not just .NET, but also anything on software development and related topics. Inside the membership, you also find book summaries of some of the most influential books on software development, software engineering, leadership, and management. That will help you to master some of the principles and design philosophies required to become a master's engineer. Perhaps one of the most valuable things you get as a member is an exclusive access to a WhatsApp group with all the other Productive C# members, where you can ask questions, share your opinions, and discuss important topics about software development, and everyone help each other. I will be there to support you along the way anytime. Every so often, I run live presentation to share more information about C# or I bring expert speaker to bring you even more content to you. I organize live mastermind session on Zoom where members can get together and learn from each other. Now, let's talk about all the benefits that members can get. First of all, any members of Productive C# will get a free 6 months license to any JetBrains product. The most popular ones are ReSharper and the Rider that will make you even a more productive .NET developer. Every few months, I'm also running exclusive raffles amongst members to give away free technical books, licenses of LinkPad, licenses of Metalama, licenses of Telerik, and any other famous software development tool. Plus, all members can get discounts on some of these tools. On top of everything else, if you get an annual subscription, I'm offering a free 1-hour coaching and mentoring session with me one-to-one when I can help you to understand your situation and give you advice on how you can progress faster in your career. I'm Andrea, I'm a Microsoft MVP, I've been coding since I was 9 and I have more than 12 years of experience as a software engineer, and in the last few years I've become a staff level engineer and more recently an engineering manager. So I've been through all the phases of engineering, and I'm now helping other software engineers, even at my current job, to grow as software engineers in their career by coaching and helping them to build personal development plans. So if you want to work one-on-one with me and have one free session, join the annual membership. If this sounds great, there is only one thing left to do. Put your name and email and sign up to the Productive C# membership today. Okay, let me summarize everything you get as soon as you become a Productive C# member. Immediate access to 200 plus practical hands-on videos on C#, access to the source code on GitHub, monthly newsletter with news about C#, .NET and the software development world, book summaries on software engineering topics, access to an exclusive WhatsApp group with all the other members and me, live events and special mastermind groups on Zoom with all the other members, lots of benefits, a free license to any JetBrains product, and also access to raffles with a lot of other licenses to give away, discount to get software tools for you, and also 1 hour free coaching and mentoring with me. So what are you waiting for? Join today the Productive C# membership. I'll see you inside. Happy C# coding!